put something together outside the show. The one we have to talk about is the Oklahoma State Cowboys going to Fog Allen and winning by 5 against the number 7th ranked and top in the Big 12 Kansas Jayhawks. This was an incredible win. Dave Hunziker's call encapsulated it all.
Right.
You know, Eddie Sutton struggled to win at Fog Allen. And Mike Boynton, as we'll get to at the end of the game, Kendall Smith 24, McGriff 20, Carroll 15, Lindy Waters made a couple huge shots. He had 11. Who was the most impactful Cowboy in this game?
Without a doubt, Cam McGriff. Little used Cam McGriff. He's gotten a little more minutes now, and it helped. You know, Solomon and Semo were both in foul trouble quite a bit, so that gave him more minutes. But he averages 7 and 5 for points and rebounds, and to be able to go 20 points and 9 rebounds, and to contribute that in 38 minutes.
And literally, where he literally told him to shush. And that 2 for 3, he didn't shoot a lot of threes, but he hit a couple huge ones. He hit the one to send him to overtime against OU. He hit a couple big ones against Kansas, including one late in the second half there that we saw those on the bump in here. Lindy Waters hit a couple big threes. I look at those guys who are normally role players. Kendall Smith knew he had to step up. That's why he took 16 shots. He's not a guy that normally does that.
Right.
And he's not a guy that has to do that to score, you know, a decent amount of points. But the question remains, can this Cowboys team make the tournament if Jeffrey Carroll continues to struggle from the field?
No, they can't. Even if he doesn't struggle, if he gets his rhythm back, I don't even know if they can to begin with how muddled the Big 12 is, especially towards the bottom. You know, you lose to TCU, who's right, you know, I think a game above the Cowboys. I mean, Baylor comes in tonight, and they're only, I think, a game apart. There's all these different scenarios that I don't know. Maybe I could see to me, the NIT looks more of their destination than it does the big dance.
I think it does, but I think you're right there, but this puts them back on track because now you're sitting at 14-9. That's not an awful record. Now, the only difference is now you have to probably beat Kansas again. Although you don't have to, but you have to win these games that you're supposed to win. It starts with Baylor. You have to win these games. You have to beat Baylor. You have to beat, I believe they play TCU one more time. You have to beat, I think they play Iowa State one more time. You have to win those games. Those are must-win games. And if you lose any of them, then you have to start beating Kansas at home, West Virginia on the road. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
So this was a huge game, but like, make no mistake, they have to shake this one off and get right back to it.
And you also have to look back, you know, the past 4 games where it was, you know, when the win against OU in overtime, and then they had the lead. They lost to Texas Tech. I mean, if they could even gotten that victory. Arkansas, they lost by 1. I mean, it's amazing how a few different shots, their record could be way different than what it's at.
Yeah, and I don't think the Arkansas loss hurts them too much because it's not conference.
Right.
But you're right. You're right. And like I said earlier, you win at Texas Tech. I said that just about, it almost probably puts you in the field now if you beat Texas Tech. You honestly, if you look back over winter break, you should have beat West Virginia at home.
Right.
You let that game slip away, and no one talks about it because they've just been letting these second half performances continue all year long. Because you should have this should be your wins right now. OU at home, Texas at home, West Virginia at home, Baylor on the road, Texas Tech on the road, Kansas on the road. You do that, you're in the tournament.
Right.
You have to be able to finish these games, especially on the road. You go up to Iowa State and lose, the season's over.
Yeah.
You do that, you go out to West Virginia and you win, all of a sudden you put yourself in a darn good position to potentially make a run at this thing.
Right.
So this is a huge win, but I want to celebrate it more, but you can't because you have to look forward because there are way bigger games coming up.
Well, and even like you said, with the victory against, if they could have beaten, you know, even 3 other teams you just mentioned, they could be either like a game out or even tied for the conference, you know, in the standings in first. I mean, they're only 3 games out right now. You know, it's amazing how there's different discrepancies between the teams. Like there's different skill levels, but yet like Iowa State's only 4 games out, and Texas Tech right now and Kansas are tied for the top.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so. It's amazing to me.
Well, it's interesting because I look at Texas. I rank them a little higher than you did in your in the power rankings you
Yep.
did. Texas Tech, I think they're still playing well. Kansas State took a whooping to West Virginia. And again, I'm just not sure if Kansas State. I don't know if they have the explosiveness to continue on. So that's another team that if Oklahoma State can beat them, you start putting these wins together, and if Kansas State continues to lose or drop a couple on the road,
Right.
all of a sudden, if you're ahead of Kansas State, you're going to put yourself in a good position to make the tournament.
Yep.
And I don't think, with the way this season started, it should have been a tournament team. But it has a chance now. And I like the O'Callaghan's headline, Hope's Not Rocked. Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, go up there, you win. That's a huge win. Like I said, I told Cam when we had him on 2 weeks ago, if OSU can win this game, what's stopping them from making the tournament?
Right.
And like I said, they have some favorable matchups coming up here that they have to win. It starts tonight at Baylor or against Baylor. What's the key to this game? Let me ask you one more thing that I had written down here. SEMA, are you disappointed he's not getting more time? Obviously, you can't really worry about Kansas that much because he was in foul trouble, but are you worried about him only getting like 15 minutes a game?
What's weird now with it, like, I'm going to give two kind of things because now that he has the wrist injury, now no. But yeah, I don't understand why, why they didn't give him that many minutes. Like, I understand the Kansas because of the foul trouble, but why he hasn't been. And I don't know, are they trying to keep the second unit, so they have someone in the second unit that can keep things afloat, what? But then you can look at why don't you put Cam McGriff there? I mean, McGriff just scored 20 against Kansas of all teams in Fog Allen Fieldhouse. It's confusing. I really don't know what Boynton or the staff is trying to do with SEMA. I don't know if he's still trying to fit in with the other personnel or what. But
I'm a huge SEMA fan, and honestly, if he's not in foul trouble, he would be my guy ahead of Mitchell Solomon.
I agree. I really do.
And it stinks because I think Mitchell Solomon's a great player, right? I think he is, as Boynton says, like the heartbeat of this team. But I think SEMA just offers you so much more on both sides of the court.
No, I totally agree. I definitely think with Solomon, yes, he's a heart of the team. Like, he's a defensive heart of the team. But, I know when we were watching the game this weekend when he shot that three and people were like, oh, why was he shooting that?
I like that shot.
Yeah, I did too. I thought it was a great shot. I know he doesn't shoot that very often, but, I don't know. I still don't know why SEMA doesn't. It'd be interesting to figure out what actually is the reason for that.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a transfer in. He's only been here for a semester. I understand that to a certain extent, but when you have talent, it's hard to keep that talent off the court, right? It just is. So, I do wonder about that. You and I, we called the women's game for one of our classes. We'll maybe get to that. Maybe we'll do something off air. We're running down on time here, so maybe we'll be able to get our viewers, get you guys some of that later this week.
Yeah.
We'll see if we could have some time to sit down and talk about that. A 92-63 win, just a huge win for them, and really puts them back in actual running to like be an actual contender here in the Big 12, which is exciting. All right, well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, the NFL has gotten something so wrong for so long, and they finally got it right with this year's Hall of Fame class. I'll tell you how. That's all next. This is OSU Student Radio. This is the Border Battle on KXCY.
Hi, I'm Gina Noble, and I'm the mayor of Stillwater, Oklahoma. Stillwater, Oklahoma is anything but still. We are a vibrant community, and we are conveniently located near Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Wichita, Kansas. We're the home of the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we serve as the cultural, economic, and athletic hub for North Central Oklahoma. In fact, several Quality of Life magazines have recognized Stillwater as one of the nation's 100 top places to live and one of the best places to golf. Established in the land run in 1889, Stillwater is a safe, vibrant community, It boasts a great educational system from K through 12 all the way up to our world-class university, Oklahoma State University. We have an exceptional downtown with a strong entrepreneurial spirit, numerous city parks and trails, and our medical resources are second to none. Stillwater is a wonderful place to begin your career, to start a business, to raise a family, or to retire. We invite you to visit Stillwater because we are anything but still.
Think you're not involved in your community? Think again. Spending your money with local businesses is more than an economic choice. It's a way you can have a say in the look and feel of your hometown. This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to The Border Battle with King and CJ on KXZY Oklahoma State Student Radio, also on Suddenlink Channel 112, YouTube Live, that's Border Battle on Demand, or Facebook.com/Border Battle Show. Chris, Hall of Fame inductions, we had 8 new inductees this year. So the way they do it is you get some old-timers that have been senior finalists, I guess they call them. They're for players whose careers are more than 25 years ended. And then there's a contributor finalist. We had a Bobby Bethard go in as a GM and personnel administrator. And then you have the modern era finalists. So the way the modern era finalists goes is like there's 15 of them. You vote them down to 10, you vote them down to 5, and then those 5 have to get voted at least 80% to get inducted. All five excuse me, did this year. That being Brian Dawkins, Ray Lewis, John Lynch, not John Lynch, Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Brian Urlacher. Sorry about that. And we'll get to those guys in a second. I want to start with the biggest travesty, perhaps in all of sports. Jerry Kramer got inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. He was a Green Bay Packer. He was the guard on the Green Bay Packers. You saw when we were going to break there, he was part of the Ice Bowl, the famous play, Bart Starr's quarterback sneak, the guy over the top going like this. He led that.
Yep.
Widely considered the greatest, most significant block in all of football history. So why isn't Jerry Kramer in the Hall of Fame? 11 people from that Green Bay Packers team, 10 players, and St. Vince Lombardi were in the Hall of Fame already.
So was other of the offensive line on there as well, or no one else from the O-line is more like
yeah, there were. I believe there was another 1 or 2 from the offensive line. Obviously, you have Starr, Paul Hornung. You have all these guys in the Hall of Fame, and perhaps the greatest guard of all time. You go back and you watch last year. The NFL Films did a great little doc. You know, they do those countdowns.
Yeah, 30 for 30 type thing.
Yeah, they're almost like 30 for 30s. They're countdowns though. So it's the top 10 people, top 10 players not to be in the Hall of Fame that are Hall of Fame category or caliber. He was number 1. And you know what was such like the problem with these people having it was they did a 50-year anniversary list of the team of the greatest players who would be the starting lineup out of the 50 years. He was a starter. All other starters, all 21 other players from the starting lineup, Hall of Famers.
I think the hardest thing is I'm not going against the pick. I think it's great. Packers got someone in. Vikings got someone in, so we can both say we tied. This way you can't, we can't go at each other.
It's not about that. It's about about the greatest player at his position getting in the Hall of Fame.
But here's my thing. The O-line is so hard for voting because yes, you can be the greatest all you want, but to go up against wide receivers, position players that, interception on the defense side, a guard's blocking. Yes, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm happy. I'm glad he got in. But I think that's the struggle with with all this stuff is the offensive line. What do you base them off of?
But when all of these football people say he is the best at his position, how is he not in the Hall of Fame?
To be able to teach kids, they start off with a ball right this size here. The net is about half this size. Allowing them to be able to have success early is so important to someone enjoying and having success with the game. So as we focus on the junior game, once again we have 3 different types of balls that we use based on the
Kramer being denied the Hall of Fame for this long, and thank goodness he's in. I saw a tweet that I loved. I retweeted it this weekend. It said, "Rest in peace, St. Vincent. Your guys are finally home." That was the only one. Jerry Kramer was the last one.
Missing piece.
The last one that was a clear Hall of Famer that should have been in years and years ago that finally got in. So I'm happy about that. He got in. That's the end of that rant. Justice finally done in this situation. Finally. So I want to talk about the modern players, though. You got Brian Dawkins and Ray Lewis and Randy Moss, T.O., Brian Urlacher. I want to start off with T.O. and Brian Dawkins. Not first-timers. They were the 2 modern that were not first-timers. Which one did you grow up as more of a fan of? Brian Dawkins or T.O.?
I don't know. I'd almost have to say T.O. But I remember more of Brian Dawkins, if anything. And maybe that's when I don't want to say I was rooting for the Eagles, but that's when the Eagles were a little more prominent with Donovan McNabb and that whole team.
T.O. was also on that team for a short while.
But yeah, I would say T.O. I mean, it was even when he was pairing up with Jerry Rice, back when Jerry Rice was more towards the end of his career and all. But yeah, T.O. was when you were out in the backyard playing football, he was the wide receiver you either wanted to pretend you were like was T.O. or Randy Moss, who we'll get to later on.
Chad Ochocinco,
the big celebratory wide receivers that, these dances, I mean, they are the original founders to me of some of these crazy celebrations.
T.O. and Ochocinco especially.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I'm going to go Brian Dawkins as well, or I guess not as well. I'm going to go Brian Dawkins, though, because when I was a big Madden guy growing up.
Okay.
And it was always Ed Reed, Brian Dawkins. And those were my 2 safeties. I wasn't a Palomalu guy. I never wanted him on my team. I wanted Brian Dawkins and Ed Reed. And my offense would be garbage when I did a fantasy draft because those would be – I had to make sure I got those 2. And I analyzed each game to figure out when did safeties go because I was going to take them the round before that. So Brian Dawkins was one of my favorite players growing up. Huge hard hitter, probably wouldn't survive in this league because he'd probably get suspended and fined and all that. So those were the non-first eligible guys. Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, both first ballot Hall of Famers, and Brian Urlacher. I'm not going to ask you who is your favorite because it's obviously Randy Moss. Ray Lewis?
No, obviously it's Randy Moss.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Randy Moss. Randy Moss, one of my favorite receivers growing up. Is he the greatest other than Jerry Rice? Is he's the greatest modern receiver of all time?
I think so. For I think it was a 14-year career he did. I don't know. There's not much to say. I feel like he has been one of the best besides, like you said, Jerry Rice. I don't know who else comes up with him. Personally, I think he's better than T.O.
I do too.
I don't know. It's so hard to even describe how a person feels really about Randy Moss because he's the second best. There is no denying that. And
I think you can deny it, but I'm with you there. I think he's the second greatest receiver of all time. Here's why. You could argue that he should be in 2 different teams' Hall of Fames.
Yeah,
you could make
Patriots
an argument that he should be
the other one.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
You can make an argument that the Patriots should induct him as a receiver into their Hall of Fame, and I don't think you can really argue that. But I want to get to these linebackers because both maybe the greatest 2 linebackers were playing at the same time, and we saw that hit on Ray Lewis. That was his thing. Brian Urlacher, one of the greatest all-around linebackers. He could deliver the hit that we saw Ray Lewis get. He was the quarterback of the defense. I'm not saying Ray Lewis wasn't, but I think Urlacher was better at it than Ray Lewis was. And then you look at his athleticism, and we saw it there. He can pick. He had no problem picking it off and running it 90 yards for a pick 6.
Right.
And that was what was so unique about Brian Urlacher. We had never seen that from the linebacker position. We've always seen oversized guys that can hit hard. And Urlacher kind of revitalized it, kind of rewrote the rule book on what middle linebackers should be. And I think that's why you have these now. You have the guys like Luke Kuechly, guys who are quarterbacks who do the mental part of the game first, and then if they get the chance for a big hit, fine. But that's not their MO. Their MO is to make sure their teammates, the other 10 guys on the field, are in the right position. And then, by the way, instincts like you've never seen before.
Right,
Brian Urlacher had incredible instincts.
No, and I totally agree. I was even going to say that with Urlacher. He has instincts. He was more of the general, and I think now when you look at Ray Lewis, phenomenal as well. He was like the heart and soul of that. Like, he was the one that, like him and Ed Reed, like that was a dangerous. Once you got past that front line on the defense, if you did, I mean, you had Ray Lewis waiting for you. If he missed, Ed Reed was right behind him, ready to finish you off if Lewis couldn't get it done, which was pretty rare because usually Lewis, like you saw on that hit, I mean, he'll hit you and he'll hit you hard. He ain't afraid of the contact. But I'm going to probably get some flack for saying this, but I don't know. Like with Urlacher, and maybe it's hard because he was never on a real good Bears team. I think that's part of the issue is I don't think he had a lot of stuff to go with, but like I'm glad he got in, but I don't know. I'm a fan of Brian, but yet I'm not, if that makes sense. I don't know. Him getting in right away I don't know.
He should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Which is
I
fine.
disagree with you there.
I don't know what it is. I just have this weird nah.
Like, this is the separation between Moss and Owens. Moss is a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's the difference between Brian Urlacher and some other middle linebackers that are for sure going to get in. And you look at the same thing, you have to put him in the same class as Ray Lewis. You have to. And if Ray Lewis is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, which I think there was some concern about with some of his off the field concerns, I think Brian Urlacher is for sure over a 12-year career. He did it every single Sunday. Let me ask you let me throw a few names out to you. John Lynch, Ty Law. Any of those 5 that we mentioned that you would take off for those guys?
Oh, Kramer. No, I'm just kidding. I just had to say it because I knew that would get you.
You can't take Kramer off though. That's not the same.
You're talking about like the 5 moderns.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if you really can. I think they're all deserving. Really, the closest to me would be John Lynch. I feel like John Lynch would have been right on the border between him and Dawkins, maybe. But that's really it. I don't have an argument, I guess, with Ty Law getting in right away. But I'd say Lynch is maybe, but I don't have anyone.
Yeah, I think I have Ty Law just above John Lynch. But if so, it's close, and none of them should have gotten in over this class. Just a strong class this year overall. Well, we'll be right back. I think Chris and I both think the NFL Hall of Fame got it right. But did they get the end of the season honors right? Plus, our fun picks from Friday didn't turn out so fun. We'll recap all of those. All of that coming up next on Border Battle on OSU Student Radio, KXZY.
What is arts and sciences?
We aren't all about the arts.
We like to think of ourselves as explorers.
From exploring the human mind
to discerning the building blocks of the universe.
We don't just read books.
We don't just sit in the classroom.
And we don't just solve problems.
We seek to give everyone a voice.
In a variety of approaches.
We tackle the big issues.
By understanding complex social structures.
And even understand the small ones.
We take passions to new heights.
But stay grounded.
We tell stories.
Of the past. Of the present.
And work to predict the future.
We like to think with a little preparation. Some dirt under the fingernails.
And some self-analysis. You can do anything.
With nearly 100 degree plans to choose from.
Where will your arts and science degree take you?
Connect, achieve, succeed.
To our neighbors and friends, we come to you today to let you know what's on our hearts. Because you're the reason what we do is so much more meaningful than a job. The reason we believe in the power of investing in tomorrow and the power of community. So this is simply thank you. As we step boldly into a time of growth and change, consider this our promise that every investment in our hospital is an investment in our communities.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
Welcome back into Studio 318 here in the Paul Miller Journalism Building here at Oklahoma State University. You're listening to the Border Battle with King and CJ. I'm King, he's CJ. Chris.
Yes.
The end of the season awards, the other part of the Hall of Fame kind of night that goes on. Which was your favorite award awarded, I guess is my question to you.
Oh, really? You want to know? You know what mine was?
Yes.
The Best Play of the Year award.
Which was?
The Minneapolis Miracle against the Saints.
Yeah.
Hoorah!
And that was probably not going to have any problems winning. Was Tom Brady the MVP of the league this year?
I think so. I don't know who is I think yes, because of Carson Wentz being injured. I think if Carson Wentz would have been healthy, I think it would have been a toss-up between those two. But I don't know who else really to pick. I feel like you've got someone in the wings who you feel would be, but I think Tom Brady deserves it.
This is nothing against Tom Brady. Like I said, he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Doesn't mean I like him. If I was, and this is unfortunate because the NFL MVP will always have a bias towards quarterbacks. But as we look at the award list here, Chris, you could make a legitimate case, and I'm going to make it right now, that Offensive Player of the Year Todd Gurley was the MVP of the season, and Rookie of the Year on the offensive side, Alvin Kamara, he's the Offensive Player of the Year for the entire NFL. And I know a lot of people are going to say, no, it's Le'Veon Bell or it's Antonio Brown. Those guys were all Offensive Player of the Years. Players of the Year. I understand that. Alvin Kamara came in as a rookie, and the reason he didn't win it is because he is a rookie, and unfortunately, there is a bias against that.
Okay.
But was that going to be your question?
Yeah, I was going to ask if a rookie could actually win Offensive Player of the Year or not.
I think there is undoubtedly a bias against rookies when it comes to the regular Offensive Player of the Year voting. Kamara had to split with Mark Ingram as a rookie. And he was still able to outperform most every running back in the league. He was right up there with Le'Veon Bell. Gurley had an unbelievable season of touchdown-wise and out of the backfield, catching the ball. Kamara does it all too, though. Don't forget that. Like, what Gurley is to the Rams is what Kamara is to a certain extent to the Saints. And the thing is, he also has to compete with touches.
Right.
Like, he doesn't get all the touches like Gurley does. So... And then you can give Kareem Hunt, who, by the way, led the league in rushing this year as a rookie, you can give him Rookie Offensive Player of the Year. There's nothing wrong with what Tom Brady did this year, and it's impressive that he did it at the age of 40. But I think he's getting I think it helped him that he was 40.
Right.
I think if he was 38 this year, I don't think he wins the MVP.
No,
if he's 35, he don't win the MVP.
Right.
It goes to someone else.
Right. And it shows because of his age of what he did. Fun little quick stat. We did talk about this. Don't know if it's a for sure fact thing. I still got to fact check that. But there was this rumor going around that any quarterback from all the years of the NFL, everything, that if you led the league in passing yards, you didn't win the Super Bowl. And again, Brady led the league this year and didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
which is it's a crazy stat. And like I said, I got to look that up, and it'd be a fun thing to find out, because if that's a true stat. Like, that's crazy.
Only 1 year since 1999, and that was Kurt Warner, has a player won NFL MVP and gone on to win the Super Bowl. So one of the prop bets was actually, will Tom Brady win the double? Will he be NFL MVP and Super Bowl MVP? Doesn't happen very often, especially recently. Like I said, since 99, Kurt Warner, the only guy to do it. There's about 8 guys who've gone to the Super Bowl as MVP and lost, actually. So Rams dominate offensive, defensive, and coach of the year. Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley, as we mentioned. and Sean McVay. Sean McVay, I mean, you could make maybe a Mike Zimmer push for it. Certainly Doug Peterson, and obviously if you voted afterward, Doug Peterson might have won it because he won the Super Bowl and knocked off Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But I have no problem with Sean McVay here because you look at what the Rams were last year, the only other person that had this kind of turnaround was Marrone down in Jacksonville.
Right.
And to a lesser extent, because you look at the struggles, like Marrone got Bortles to play a little better, but look at what McVay did for Jared Goff. Jared Goff became a Pro Bowl caliber type of player in a year.
Yeah.
And Jeff Fisher couldn't get him to throw the ball forwards.
No, like you said, I have no problem with it. Like you said too, McVay, it was his first year. You know, what Peterson's done, you know, in his second year and to go and win the Super Bowl, that's fantastic. Good for him. Even like with Zimmer, but he's been in now, I think it's 4th or 5th year with the Vikings. I think McVay deserves it, all of it. I have no issues with that.
Well, I want to talk about Zimmer for just a second longer because Pat Shurmur won the Assistant Coach of the Year award. Do you think that is because of his turnaround of Case Keenum? Because again, he was a Ram in the past, and he couldn't throw the ball forward either. And this year, he leads him to the NFC Championship game. Is that why? Is that in your mind? Is that why Pat Shurmur wins the Assistant Coach of the Year award?
Oh, outright. I believe that's exactly why. For what he was able to do with Case Keenum, and to then go with a 13-3 record with the Vikings, and to show, to help Case out. It just goes to show the magic that Pat Shurmur was doing. Behind the scenes, like you said, assistant coaches don't always get a lot of credit for what they do. But yeah, I think just because of what he did with Case Keenum, that's why he deserved what he did.
Yeah, and let me give Pat Shurmur some credit here real quick because, like I've said this before, you know what made me so angry this year was all of the reports about coming out of New York from like all of the papers up in New York complaining, well, this isn't fair because we've lost Sterling Shepard and we lost the greatest receiver of all time, blah, blah, blah. They overblow everything. Yeah, you lost Odell Beckham Jr. Why do you got to complain about it for 17 weeks to people that don't give a rip about him missing the entire season? I don't understand it. Did you hear Jacksonville one time? Did you ever hear them complain about the loss of Allen Robinson? By the way, was an all-pro wide receiver a couple of years ago? Nope.
Nope.
Did you hear Pat Shurmur complain about a rookie, potentially the rookie of the year in offense, Dalvin Cook? That's what he was, he was playing well when he got hurt. Did you ever hear him complaining about him tearing his ACL? Nope.
Not only that, what about losing two of the starting quarterbacks on their depth chart for the Vikings as well? You lose Bradford, and granted, Bridgewater was already out. He was still coming back, but it's that same thing. If you don't hear the Vikings complaining, oh, we're down to our third string quarterback, we can just mail it in because, everyone's going to agree, we shouldn't be good. And it's like,
yeah.
But that's not how Mike Zimmer works either, though. I mean, he's, he holds all guys accountable. They all deserve that spot to be on the roster.
So that's what I look at some of these teams that have lost key players, and they aren't doing what the Giants are doing. And also, by the way, they aren't doing what the Packer fans are doing either. Packer fans need to take a look in the mirror when they're criticizing New York, too, because, by the way, what was the first word out of every Packers fan's mouth on Twitter? Trust me, I know. I've seen it. What is the first word every Sunday when they lose? Well, we don't have we don't have Aaron Rodgers. So what? So what? The Vikings were able to do it like you said. They lost 2 quarterbacks. They lost their starting running back. All of these teams have injuries. Every team goes through it.
Right.
Because you were not prepared and because Brett Hundley wasn't what you said he was. That doesn't give you an out to complain when all these other teams are just going about their business and, by the way, having success about it.
Right.
It's just these teams make me incredibly angry because I think Packer fans are spoiled, and I think Giants fans are spoiled, and they've had this all for the past 20 years, and they think it all should be ho-hum, it should be all great right now.
Do you feel that part of that could be, too, with like the coaches themselves, maybe how the locker room set up, how these coaches are doing the team? Not going against Mike McCarthy or...
No, I don't.
But look, Ben McAdoo got fired midway. If that has to do with some of this...
No, it's spoiled fan bases is what it is. Packers are the most spoiled fan base in all of football, and I've said that multiple times. And now they've done it to a point where they've gotten a defensive coordinator fired, which probably, yes, he should have gotten fired. But this is the Packer fans have no leg to stand on when they start complaining. Vikings fans, you know what they've done? They've lost 2 quarterbacks this year and a running back, and they haven't won a Super Bowl in their franchise's history. And do you hear them complaining about losing all these people? No. Go on Twitter and search the Vikings. They aren't complaining about it.
If anything, all we say is, well, here it goes again. Like, it's almost like we're used to it in that sense of like, okay.
Yeah, Packer fans are spoiled, and it to a certain extent, there are times when you really get irritated with them, and it's like, I have to identify with these people.
Right.
And it's unfortunate.
I will say this: the one thing though that the Giants actually did win was in the Super Bowl commercial. I thought that was great.
That was
with
funny.
The OBJ Eli thing. I was talking to one of the camera guys here before that it almost you wondered too if it was a kind of like a message that Eli's not coming back because it was like, oh, we're having the time of our lives.
No.
You know,
reading too much into it.
You're right, but I thought it was a cool little like, well, you never know.
No, it's fun to read into them.
So if that happens, I started that notion. I
By all means,
that.
you call it. You can have it. I think he's for sure coming back next season. All right, we're going to take a quick look at our prop picks from Friday. Just a couple of minutes here. We'll take a look at them. Chris, you didn't get one right.
I wish the only one I almost could have gotten right was Tom Brady. But they don't give out to losing teams because I felt with Tom Brady what he did. And when I saw you had 3 touchdowns, I told you it was like he's going to have 5 touchdowns. And when he was reeling them off that fast, I was like, oh, Tom Brady's coming in. But, yeah,
well, Chris,
unfortunately.
Like I said, Chris, I was just teaching you how to win. I had one right. So not very good output from either of us. But we'll give the win to Chris because he picked the game right. He said the Eagles were going to win outright. So we'll give Chris the win. We'll say that's worth 2 points, even though Bill Belichick's shirt color should have won it for me, but
wow, I'm just wow, you touched me there, Jordan. You actually gave up a victory to give me some credit for once.
It was hard for me to do. And by the way, I can guarantee you. No, I can't actually guarantee you, but I have a feeling that the Gatorade was red in the Patriots the Patriots cooler. I just have a feeling, no proof. But obviously, we knew if the Eagles won, it was probably going to be yellow or green or whatever.
And it was green.
It was that yellow lemon
lime,
lime
yep.
type of stuff or whatever it was. So you got them. We'll give it to you this time. But it was still fun, was it not?
Oh yeah, it was. I know we were talking about it before the show. I was really watching to see if Pink would actually say Eagles after she was singing, but.
Didn't give her much of a shot.
No, they cut right to commercial, and I was a little upset. But, yeah, it was fun. I always love doing these because, you don't know. There is no pattern to choose some of these.
Yeah. All right, well, we got to get out of here. We're butting up against the top of the hour here. Thank you so much for joining us. Chris, we'll talk a little bit more. We'll hopefully get that OSU women's basketball game. We'll kind of give our thoughts about that, maybe in a podcast or something. Look for that on the borderbattle.com, on Facebook.com/BorderBattleShow. We'll hopefully put that out to you. Join us again Wednesday. We got some more big news from the college realm, from Oklahoma State University. For CJ, for all the crew here, I'm King. You're listening to the Border Battle on OSU Student Radio.